All right, so this is the video for your next test. So let's see what we have. So for the first one, it says find the amplitude, the frequency, period, midline, range, and graph one cycle of each curve. All right, so let me write the first one down, 1A. Okay, so let's start off by identifying the amplitude. So remember, the amplitude is the absolute value of A, so it's the absolute value of 4, which is 4. Then we have the number of cycles is the absolute value of B, which is going to be 1/2. The frequency remember, that's how many cycles in a 2 pi interval, so it's 1/2 in 2 pi. So it means half a cycle in 2 pi. Now remember, we're going to graph one cycle, so that's important to know. Period, remember, is 2 pi over B. 2 pi over B. So in this case, it's 2 pi over 1/2, which is 4 pi. Remember, period is when you see one complete cycle. So now this is important because that's what we're graphing. We're graphing one cycle. The next thing is we need the midline. That's y equals d. So this is y equals -1. The range is the midline, or d, plus minus the amp. So that's -1 plus minus 4. So -1 plus 4 is 3, -1 minus 4 is -5. So that's the range, is from -5 to 3. All right, let's do the number of slashes. Is 4 times B, so it's 4 times 1/2, which is 2. And the scale, the X scale, is 2 pi over the number of slashes, which is pi. All right, so now let's start graphing this. All right, so the midline is at -1. And we're going up and down to -5 and then 3. -2, -3, -4, -5. And 0, 1, 2, 3. Graph the midline. Remember, this is your x-axis, this is the y-axis, or f of x. We have 2 slashes, 1, 2. Now remember, that's only a half a curve, right? Because that's the period here. Sorry, no. We have the number of cycles. Frequency is half a cycle in 2 pi. So this is pi, 2 pi. But now we're going to need 2 more slashes because I need to get to 4 pi. Because that's what the period is. The period is 4 pi. Remember, period is when you see one complete curve. It says to graph one curve. All right, so now we are graphing a sine curve. Sine starts at the midline, and it's a +4, so it's going to go up to the max, down to the midline, down to the min, back to the midline. And there's your one curve. Okay? Make sure that's nice and smooth in there. All right, let's take a look at 1B. Okay, so 1B is g of x is equal to -10 cosine 2x plus 3. All right, let's start with the amplitude. Is equal to the absolute value of -10, which is 10. So we have the number of cycles is 2, because it's B. Then we have the frequency is 2 cycles in 2 pi. And then we have the period, it's 2 pi over b, so it's 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Next thing we want is midline. That's y equals 3. Range is going to be midline plus minus the amp. So that's 13 to -7. So that's your range, -7 to 13. Number of slashes is 4 times b, which is 8. And the x scale is 2 pi over 8, which is pi over 4. Okay, so let's start our graph. So notice that our midline is down at, is up at 3. All right, so we have 1, 2, here's 3. There's the midline. And then we're going up 10. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, up here in the work. 11, 12, 13. And then down 10. So this is 13. And down to -7. All right, and now we're going to have 8 slashes. 1, 2, 3, 4. But remember, we only want one curve, so I'm only going to put 4 slashes. Remember, every 4 slashes is a curve. And then it's pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4, which is pi, which makes sense because that's the period. It's when we see one complete cycle. It is a cosine curve, and this cosine is negative, so that means we're going to start down at the min. Then it's going to go to midline, up to the max, back to the midline, and down to the min. So it'll look like this. Sorry, this should be over here a little bit. So it'll look like that. Minus this little... That should not be there. Okay, so those are the graphs, and let's take a look at number 2. Okay, so number 2 says to write the cosine curve that has an amplitude. Now mine says 8. I know yours says 5. So that should be a 5 here. 5. Has a period of pi over 3 and has a range of 0 to 10 and increases from 0 to pi over 6. All right, so let's get to this. All right, so let's see. We have here the range is from 0 to 10, right? So the middle, we should all be able to figure out the middle, right? Because that's 10 units here. All right, so this is 10 units. 0 to 10, half of 10 is 5. So we're going up and down 5, which puts us right here in the middle at 5. Going up and down 5 should make sense because I said the amplitude was 5. So this is 5 here. So now I know where the midline is, right? Here's the midline. Oh, and also remember, I've always said to write down the model, y equals, and it does say write a cosine curve, so it's blank cosine blank x plus blank. And remember, this is your A, comes from your amp. This is B, comes from the cycles in 2 pi. And this is D, that's your midline. Okay, so now write y equals blank cosine blank x plus blank. All right, so we know where the midline is. The midline is at 5. And we know what the amplitude is. The amplitude is 5 because we're going up and down 5. Now I have to determine if that's a positive 5 or a negative 5. So let's see. It does say this. It increases it increases from 0 to pi over 6, and it's a cosine curve. So now remember, cosine will start at either the max or the min. So from 0 to pi over 6, it says it increases. So I can't be starting up here at the max because I would be going down. That would be decreasing. So I have to be starting here at the min to be increasing to pi over 6. So that means that has to be negative. All right, so now we have to get B. So we have to use the period information. It says the period is equal to pi over 3. Now remember, period is 2 pi over b. So 2 pi over b has to equal pi over 3. Cross multiply. We get 6 pi equals b pi when I cross multiply. Divide by pi. So b is equal to 6. So this is 6 here. So it's y equals negative 5 cosine 6x plus 5. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Okay, so number 3, we have given the functions f, g, and h, right? So we have f is an equation, we have g is a table of values, and h is a graph. Determine the average rate of change for each over the interval. So we're going from pi over 2 to 2 pi, then list the functions from least to greatest. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your f function. Right, here's the f function. F of x is equal to 4 sine x plus 2. And this is the interval. We're going from pi over 2 to 2 pi. Okay, so you're going to plug in. So you're going to do f of pi over 2 because you need your y values. Remember, these are your x values. You have to do pi over 2, and then you're going to have to do f of 2 pi. Make sure you calculate it in radians. So you're going to do 4 sine pi over 2 plus 2, and 4 sine 2 pi plus 2. Always make sure you calculate it in radians. Now, if I gave you just numbers, like if these were numbers, then you could just plug it in and calculate and look at the table of values. But your table of values doesn't go from pi over 2 to 2 pi. All right, so go into not y equals, just plug it in. Make sure you're in radian measure. All right, so you're going to type in 4 sine. Now type in pi over 2. And then plus 2. I got 6 for the first one. And now type in the next one. So it's going to be 4 sine 2 pi plus 2. And I got 2. Sometimes you get decimals, depends on what we have. All right, so now this is your point. So we have your x is pi over 2, the y is 6. X is 2 pi, and the y is 2. All right, so find the average rate of change. So remember, it's 6 minus 2. It's y minus y over x minus x. Pi over 2 minus 2 pi. Just use the fraction button. So alpha y equals. And then type in 6 minus 2 in the numerator. And then in the denominator, you're going to type in pi over 2 minus, and then 2 pi. And I got negative 0.848 ... Okay, now we're going to do g of x. Now we're going to look at the table of values. So remember, that was f of x. Now g of x. All right, so the point is pi over 2. Look at the table. The y value is negative 1. And when it's 2 pi, it's negative 3. Okay, so your average rate of change is going to be negative 1 minus negative 3. Watch the signs. Pi over 2 minus 2 pi. Okay, so now go back to alpha y equals. Now type in negative 1 minus negative 3 over pi over 2 minus 2 pi. And then I got negative 0.424. Okay, so now we're going to take care of h of x. Now notice h of x is a graph. So you're just going to read the graph. All right, so for pi over 2, so look at the graph. At pi over 2, the y value is 1. And at 2 pi, the y value is negative 1. Okay, so your average rate of change is going to be 1 minus negative 1 over pi over 2 minus 2 pi. Sorry, I just needed to fix that. I put a comma instead of a minus. Okay, so now back to your calculator. Alpha y equals, get the fraction, do 1 minus negative 1. Let's see. Sorry. Over pi over 2 minus 2 pi. And I got negative 2.97. All right, so now we need to put them in order from least to greatest. Now remember, we have negatives, so we're not comparing the negative part. It's like the absolute value of it. All right, so which one has the smallest average rate of change? All right, is it negative 0.8, negative 0.4, negative 2.7? So even though this is the smallest of the numbers, but actually the smallest would be this one. Okay, because we're kind of like, we don't think about the negatives. It means this one's going down slower than these are going down. These are going down quicker. So this is the smallest. So that would be g of x would be the smallest. And then the next one would be f of x. And then the largest average rate of change would be h of x. It means it's going down quicker than the other ones are going down. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Okay, number 4 says to list the factors, so we have to factor this, and then find the zeros, the roots of the equations. Okay, so let me write down 4a first. Okay, so 4a is 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus x equals f of x. Sorry, I forgot the f of x there. All right, so we're going to factor, and then we're going to find the zero. So I'm going to set it equal to 0. And now I'm going to factor. Now, I notice that there's a GCF, and the GCF is x. So I'm going to factor out the x. So I get 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. And then I'm going to do master product, multiply the first times the last. So I get 3x squared negative. Now I need numbers that multiply to 3 and minus to 2. That would be 3 and 1. So it'd be 3x and 1x. When I multiply 3x times 1x, I have to get negative. So that means these signs have to be different. But when I add them, it has to give me positive 2. So that means it has to be positive 3x and negative 1x. Bring down the ends. All right, now do grouping. All right, so we have GCF of the first group is 3x times x plus 1. Minus here, so the minus comes down. That means my GCF is negative. So the GCF is going to be negative 1 times x plus 1. Remember, what's in the parentheses, they have to be the same. So my factors are the 3x and the minus 1. And then the other factor is x plus 1. And remember, we had the GCF on the outside from here. Equals 0. All right, those are your factors. You have 3 factors. Now your zeros. X equals 0. 3x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1, divide by 3, 1/3. x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, x is equal to negative 1. So we have 3 factors, 3, 0. Remember, that's where it crosses the x-axis. All right, let's take a look at 4b. Okay, 4b is g of x is equal to x squared plus 12x plus 11. All right, we're going to factor and find the zeros. So I set it equal to 0. All right, so I'm going to do master product, multiply the first times the last. I get positive 11x squared. What multiplies to 11 adds to 12. That would be 11x and 1x. So when we multiply 11x times 1x, I need it to be positive. So that means I have to have the same signs. And when we add them, it has to give me positive 12. So that means it has to be a plus plus. All right, now bring down the ends. Okay, now do factor by grouping. All right, so the GCF of the first group is x times x plus 11. The sign is plus here, so that means the GCF is going to be positive, and the GCF is positive 1. All right, so your factors are 0 equals x plus 1 and x plus 11. So those are your factors. Your zeros are x equals negative 1 and x is equal to negative 11. Okay, so let's take a look at number 5. Okay, so number 6 says, given the graph, find the amplitude, number of cycles, period, and midline. Okay, so I would find how high and how low it goes first. So it goes up to 7 and down to negative 3. So that's 10. 10 over 2 is 5. So count 5 down or 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the midline is right here. So midline is y is equal to 2. All right, so now we know the amplitude. So this is 5 and 5. So your amp is 5. All right, now we have this period. Remember, period is how long it takes to complete one cycle. All right, so let's see. It's starting here, it's signed, so we know it's going to look like an S. So there's one cycle, and that happens. That's 2 pi over 3. Just reading the graph. And number of cycles is how many cycles in 2 pi. So here's 2 pi. There's the end, 2 pi. So count. We have 1, 2, 3 cycles. 3 cycles in 2 pi. Frequency, 3 cycles in 2 pi. All right, so let's take a look at number 7. Okay, so number 7 is to identify below, the equations below as either growth or decay. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. The first one is growth. Okay, we're looking for at the base. The base of the exponential is E. That's a growth because E is 2 point something, so this is growth. Now, B and C are using your exponential growth decay formula, which is A equals P times 1 plus or minus R to the T power. So that's why I said before, if it's 1 plus R, it's growth. If it's 1 minus R, it's decay. So if it's greater than 1, it's growth. If it's less than 1, it's decay. Now, B and C, I also want you to identify the increase, the percent of increase or decrease. All right, so number 7 here. Just going to write this down over here on the side. 7b. All right, so 7b is f of x. Is f of x is equal to 3 times 1.83 to the t power. All right, so I know this is growth because this inside here is 1 plus r, right? So what is it? It's 1 plus 0.83 gives me 1.83. So that's growth. So now your r is 0.83. So what's your percent of growth? It's 83% growth. Right? Remember, you moved the decimal 2 places back to the right. C is f of, sorry, this is t, not supposed to be x. T is equal to 5 times 0.35 to the t power. All right, so look inside here. That's 1 minus r because it's less than 1. Now, it's not 1 minus 0.35. That does not give me 0.35. So how do I figure out 1 minus what number gives me 0.35? So on the side, you do 1 minus 0.35. So in your calculator, do 1 minus 0.35, which is 0.675. So that's what goes here. So 1 minus 0.675 gives me 0.35. So this is decay, and it's a 67.5% decay. Move the decimal 2 places back to the right. All right, let's take a look at number 8. Okay, so number 8 says the residents in New York State are accustomed to large amounts of snow, with snowfalls often exceeding 6 inches in one day. In one city, such snowfalls were recorded for 2 seasons and are as follows in inches. So we have this data here. So we want the mean and the population standard deviation to the nearest hundredth. So this is the one where you plug it in to your 2 lists. All right, so go to your lists. Right, we're only going to have 1 list because we don't have a frequency. So press press the stat button, go into edit. You only have 1 list and put in all the data. Okay, after you get all your data in, you list 1, press stat, go over to calc, do 1 var stat. In list, you already should have L1. We do not have a frequency list, so if you have anything in there, take it out, and then you're going to calculate. So I will write down everything that I got in my calculator. All right, so our data should match if we plugged it in correctly. So we have X bar is 9.45555, and it keeps going. Sum of the X's is 170.2. Sum of the X's squared is 1861.58. Remember, big SX is sample standard deviation. So that was, sorry, my stylus is not working there. 3.852000584. Sigma X is equal to 3.743471684. And it's 18. Then we have min X. That's the smallest piece of data, is 6.1. Quartile 1 is 7. Median is 8.45. Quartile 3, 9.5. And max X is the largest piece of data, is 21.5. All right, so we had to find the mean. And now this is where you're going to round your answer, because remember what I said on test, you have to write down the whole screen. And now we want the mean, and we want the mean to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places, so that's 9.46. And we want the population standard deviation. That's the sigma. That's sigma X, is 3.74. Okay, so let's take a look at number 9. All right, number 9 says, given the mean and the standard deviation, find the interval that contains 95% of the data. All right, so remember, 95% of the data 95% of the data is 2 standard deviations to the left and to the right of the mean. All right, so it's the mean plus 2 standard deviations. It's the mean minus 2 standard deviations. Okay, now remember, mu is the mean. Mu is equal to the mean, is x bar. All right, so we're going to take 65 and we're going to add 2 standard deviations. So I'm adding 3. So I'm adding 6, right? So that's 71. And I'm going to take 65 minus 2 standard deviations. So it's 65 minus 6, which is 59. So that's the interval, 59 to 71 represents 95% of the data. All right, let's take care of the next one. Okay, so the mean is 121, and we're going to add 4.7, adding 2 standard deviations. So do 121, add 4.7, and I got 130.4. And then it's 121 minus 4.7 minus 4.7. So do 121 minus 4.7 minus 4.7, 111.6. That's the interval, 111.6 to 130.4. Okay, so let's take a look at number 10. Okay, so number 10 says to describe how we would perform an experiment if sugar causes diabetes. All right, so remember, the first thing you're going to do, you could do this as a flow chart. That's how I talked about it in class. Okay, so the first thing is you're going to gather a large, remember you have to have large because it doesn't make sense to have 2 people in your group, large random group. Okay, so the keywords here is large and random. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to split your group into 2 equal groups. So split into 2 equal groups. Okay, keyword here is 2 equal groups. Okay, because you can't have 100 people. You start off with 100 and then you're going to split your group into a group of 98 and then a group of 2. So they have to be 2 equal groups. Okay, so next, you're going to have your 2 groups. So group 1 takes sugar, and group 2 takes a placebo, which is obviously your placebo can't be a sugar pill, okay, because your group 1 is taking sugar. All right, and then the last thing you would do is you would compare data. All right, and then the last thing I need you guys to make sure that you study is to know your exponential growth problems. That's the money problems, right? Like Mary puts $100 into an account. How long does it take for the account to double? And your trig applications like the Ferris wheel problem, stuff like that. All right, so make sure you review those problems. All right, and everybody happy studying. Have a good night.